Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, he played the wardrobe in our fourth grade production of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. My brother, Mike.
A crucial, you might have just well said the lead, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's
he's the lead.
the most
no
charismatic
lines.
piece of furniture, the most erotic piece of furniture
in a fourth grade production.
Fourth grade production of Lion, which is what you have. The school newspaper called it darkly erotic.
It was all emotion. There were no lines. It was all emotion.
It
was all up here. It was all
the
in
Daniel
here.
Day-Lewis of furniture acting.
Yeah. You did for the wardrobe what he did for the wheelchair and my left foot. You know,
That's right.
So we get it. Anyway, welcome back. It's been a month since our last episode for everyone. We've been doing weekly episodes for our paid Substack subscribers. So if you're interested in getting in on that, become a paid Substack subscriber to Royals Weekly, royalsweekly.substack.com. We've been having a ball. Mike, have you been enjoying these weekly episodes? I'm having a ball over there with everybody.
There's been just enough news to kind of talk about every time we do it.
Same's the case this week. We have just enough news in that last month. A lot of this will be stuff we've covered previously on weekly episodes, so check that out. But we'll discuss last month's worth of news of Royals happenings, little tidbits that we've gotten here and there. And then for our second segment, we're going to dig into off-season strategies because I feel like we have a clearer picture of the off-season now that players have declined options or accepted options and teams and so forth. It's very clear who's going to be a free agent. Free agency is now open. And so we're going to talk a little bit about off-season strategy now that we have a clearer picture. But we do want to remind you to subscribe to that Royals Weekly Substack if you're interested in getting more content from us. If you want weekly episodes during the off-season, we do those. We just only do them for Substack subscribers. So become a paid Substack subscriber. It's only $5 a month. You get an article from me every week. You get an extra episode every week. During the season, you get another extra episode from Mike every week. It's a really great community. We have a lot of really smart baseball fans interacting with each other on that. I never feel it's never negative either. It's not like dismissive. The discourse is really good among the weekly weirdos who are Substack subscribers. So I love to see that. Plus, you get priority mailbag stuff and all that sort of stuff too. Also, if you can't feel like you can't support us by subscribing, that's okay. Make sure you rate and review us. You can do that. That's free. Rate and review us wherever you can. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. That helps out tremendously. We really appreciate that. We love reading those Apple Podcast reviews here on the episodes. So go out there. Off season's a great time to do that. Leave us a podcast review. Leave us an Apple Podcast review. Give us a 5-star rating. That really helps out. Or comment on YouTube. That's a lot of fun too. We interact with people commenting on YouTube if you watch us on there. I know a lot of you want to see this beautiful face up close.
I just shaved. See that?
I did not. You can tell. Mike, what household chores do you refuse to do yourself?
Many, but window cleaning, pressure washing, and most importantly, gutter cleaning.
And why is that?
Because I get hurt. I can fall down while I'm standing on the ground. I'm that old. If I fall off a ladder, that's it. It's done. That's all she wrote.
If you're wise like Mike, reach out to the professionals at Window Wolf for all of your window cleaning, gutter cleaning, and pressure washing needs. Window Wolf is a locally operated small business with all the professional know-how to keep your feet on the ground and your house or business shining bright. I've known the owner of Window Wolf for years, and I can tell you there's no one more reliable for high-quality service. We're very happy to have Window Wolf as a new sponsor of the show. Excellent small business to support. Plus, Window Wolf is revolutionizing home maintenance with their new instant price calculator. Get a completely free quote without a home visit or entering a bunch of your personal information with their instant price calculator. They are making the process easy and the price affordable. And for a limited time only, you can get 50% off when you use Window Wolf's instant pricing calculator. Just visit windowwolf.com. That's WINDOWWOLF.com and use the code ROYALS50, that's ROYALS50, no spaces, when using that instant price calculator, and you'll save big bucks on quality service from Window Wolf.
A 50% discount, and I didn't even have to pull a slip and fall and call a lawyer. Give it to me. Let's do it.
Be smart. Let the pack handle your pains with Window Wolf. And we'll kick off the review of last month, I should say. Normally, this is our review of last week, but since it's been a month's worth of news, basically, we don't have that much to talk about. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happened last month, and we'll kick that off with Salvador Perez extension. We got news. When was this? About a week ago, maybe?
Yeah.
That Salvador Perez had signed a 2-year extension with the Royals for 2 years, $25 million. This was in lieu of the team picking up his club option for 2026, which they had at $13.5 million. So instead, they get him for 2 more years at 12.5, save themselves $1 million in 2026. Mike, what are your thoughts on getting Salvador Perez back for not just next year, but the year after that?
I think it makes a lot of sense for what he can offer at this point, and you talk about like a hometown discount for extending guys. He's in that like next tier of guys who are only playing if they stay in this city. And I think the team knows that. He knows that. But on the open market, this is kind of what I would expect Salvador Perez to get, maybe a little bit more. So he might be a 14.5, maybe I think his top level, maybe 16 million if some team's real wants him to catch still 100 games or something like that. Because he does provide still some defensive value there. But yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense both ways and cements him. I mean, if he wasn't already, cements him as Royals legend forever. And you'll just kind of be working out deals like this until Salvador Perez wants to retire.
Right. That's where I was. I thought they would pick up his club option for 26 and then just do 1-year deals as they sort of checked in and say, do you want to play next year? And he'd be like, yeah, let's do a 1-year
here's
deal.
The deal
Like,
too. I think they might go, hey, this might be the beginning of, hey, do you want to go play for, if we're not in it, do you want to go play in the playoffs? And that way you get a team to take that last year of the deal. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Maybe, but
I think that can happen. I think they're checking with him always to say like, hey, we understand if you want to go do that. Yeah, we're in a place to compete, so hopefully he's doing it with us. But
yeah, I think he'll always say no to that. I think he wants to remain a Royal till the end of his career. But it makes sense to offer him this at this point because, you do save $1 million in 2026, which I'm sure they're happy to do. And then $12.5 million, not a lot for the services of a Salvador Perez. He gave them a team-friendly contract with his first extension. You might recall he gave like what was maybe the most team-friendly deal I've ever seen with his first extension to give him some financial security. They did right by him, and like 2 years later or something, very quickly after that first extension, gave him an extension that was more befitting his production. And frankly, he played up to the value of that extension. I've never once thought that Salvador Perez did not live up to the money that he was earning with that extension the second extension he got. This one, probably still living up to the money that he's going to earn, but it is probably a little bit team friendly, not super team friendly, but a little bit. And I'm sure he's willing to take that, to get, to have the chance to continue to play in Kansas City where he's become an integral part of the community, obviously the captain of the team, an integral part of the franchise. It'll be nice to see him get a couple more years, hopefully. And who knows after that, if he's still feeling good, maybe he keeps playing, but at the very least, we know he'll be here for at least a couple years, I think.
This is what weird to think about. When he decides to retire, he will be considered the second greatest, one of the, maybe the second greatest Royal of all time, right?
Almost certainly.
Right? I mean, that's got to be
almost certainly, yeah.
Correct.
I mean, even if he retired today, I think he would be considered the second greatest Royal of all time. If he retired today, I'd put it 60% chance he gets in the Hall of Fame. In 2 years, that chance may be almost 100%. It might be 80% chance he gets in the Hall of Fame, which would mean he's only one of 2 Royals to be there. Obviously, that makes him the second greatest Royal of all time, right? Like, I don't think he's ever going to challenge George for greatest Royal. And then, of course, they both have Bobby Witt Jr. coming south of him, who might wipe both of them out. But I think, this franchise has really been identified by one player its entire history, right? I think Salvador Perez will ultimately make it too, right? Like, and
that would be awesome. That would be awesome.
That would be awesome. It's great. He has done so many great things for this organization.
Like, I really hope that's how the narrative starts to turn. As it's a George Brett, Salvador Perez franchise legacy.
Yeah, for a few years, obviously, and then Bobby Witt Jr. hopefully. We wanted to talk a little bit about the hiring of Conor Dawson as well. All right around the same time Perez's extension was announced, or maybe just a few days ago, actually. David Lesky, who we love and have had on the show many times, or a few times anyway, broke the news that the Royals were going to be hiring Milwaukee Brewers hitting coach Conor Dawson as one of their new hitting coaches. Mike, what are your thoughts on getting Dawson in here? If you don't know, Dawson is an Olathe native. Went to college at Neosho County Community College, which is just over the border in Kansas. A real hometown guy. He's coming back to Kansas City to fill a hitting coach role here. What are your thoughts on getting him?
Well, I mentioned this on the Substack, but I like the choice. I don't know a ton about him or what specifically he believes, but he's from an organization in the Brewers that I feel has done a lot to maximize the offensive value of the guys that they have there. You don't hear about they don't have, 8 all-stars in that lineup, but they produce and compete every single year offensively. And that's what I want to see. The Royals aren't going to be able to maximize free agent spending. So they're going to have to get guys in here who can teach approaches that produce runs in, less power driven ways, let's say. And I hope that that's what he's able to do, because you're looking at Milwaukee and a team that really produced offensively. And I want that. I want that here.
Right. Right. And there's been a little bit of reporting. David Lusky had a great write-up on him. Ann Rogers had some good stuff in her write-up on him. And the reports are that he's an analytics guy who focuses heavily on swing decisions, which is, I think directly what the Royals need.
Everything.
What have Mike and I been calling for how long has this podcast been going? I don't even know anymore, but that was the entire time, basically. And yeah, you point to Milwaukee as a team that consistently, I think they finished in the top 5 in on base or in walk rate his entire tenure there. They consistently finish in the top 10 in runs scored, right? And they do it without, like you said, superstar power offensively. And I don't just mean power like hitting power. You never hear like, oh, this superstar hits for the Royal or for the Brewers. You never hear they drafted some guy who we think is going to be the next Aaron Judge. Like, it doesn't happen that way. They have Jackson Chourio, who was a top prospect, but I don't know that that was as an all-around baseball player, not as like this guy's going to hit 50 home runs and win a batting title. It wasn't like that, right? And so they're doing it by making 1 through 9 competitive at-bats in their lineup and average to above average major league hitters, right? Like that's how they're doing it, with depth, not with superstar talent all over the place. The Royals have some of that superstar talent. Bobby Witt Jr. is a superstar hitting talent, right? Jack Caglione has the potential to be a superstar hitting talent. So he will have more raw talent in Kansas City than he had in Milwaukee, right? The question is, can he help them become the type of consistent hitters that he helped the Milwaukee Brewers become, right? If he can, he's a legend in Kansas City because he turned around their offense and he's from here, right? He's got both of those things going for him.
He's the assistant hitting coach as well.
He is. Yeah. But what's odd is he'll get more credit than Zumwalt will, because he's the new guy. There's
going to be another new guy too.
Right. But everybody's going to want to make Dawson the champion because he's from right down the street, man. That's the thing. If he does it, he'll be thought of very highly here. I'll just say that, right? And you'll hear people saying, sounds crazy, but throw it out there as a prediction. If the Royals do better offensively next year, if Jack Caglione hits his potential, you're going to be hearing a lot about how Dawson helped turn this offense around. You won't be hearing as much about how Zumwalt did it, even if that's unfair, even if Zumwalt was the vehicle for it, because we love a hometown kid makes good story, and that's what this is. And so, it's cool to see. I like that they got him here. I did a bunch of research on hitting coaches for the off-season preview I did for the Substack. And he was my number one choice to take over for Zumwalt because I thought Zumwalt would be fired. He wasn't, and so I scrapped all that research. But Dawson was number 1 on my list because I knew he's from Loletha, because he's a part of this great organization that does great things with hitting. And so that was nice to see that they were able to get him to make essentially a lateral move to come back to Kansas City.
Well, that was my first thought. Well, my first thought was also like, Zumwalt, how's your butt, like the seat, is it warm? Is it getting warm? Because this might be the guy that they go, we like what he's doing, we don't like what he's doing, and just move him. You might see a midseason change if the offense comes out really bad, and Conor Dawson might be your new hitting coach.
Don't worry, guys. That's how Mike greets everybody. He just asks them, how's your butt?
How's your butt?
Too hot?
You got hot butt?
Sweating? How's it going?
Hot butt. We've all been there.
Let's talk about more coaching changes. This one's a sad coaching change. The Royals did lose Zach Bove, their assistant hitting coach. He is taking a position with the Chicago White Sox to be their hitting coach. Once again, the White Sox just copying the stuff we do, right? Yeah. And so,
nice try.
Mike, what are your thoughts on this? Is actually a wise decision to copy from the Royals. Mike, what are your thoughts on losing Bove?
It hurts, it does, but it's part of being an organization that has built a strong pitching development system. Is you're going to lose people to other organizations, lesser organizations, as the White Sox are.
They are a lesser organization.
And yeah, it does hurt. But when that happens, and this is another test of your pitching development system, is how well do you develop the coaches in that system? We don't talk about that as much. Okay.
We don't.
But when we look at, NFL sidelines, a lot of times there's 50 guys in the chain. A lot of, this is the Andy Reid tree, or this is the whatever tree. Well, if you're going to be a great pitching organization, you're going to have a tree of coaches that you can hopefully develop as well. And then you're going to lose some of them. And when you do, it's next man up, And so I think that's why they probably go from within on this one. But maybe they try and bring in some new ideas too.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt that this makes the White Sox better. There's no doubt about that. I think Zach Bove is a great pitching coach.
Good. I think
what he's done with the Royals speaks for itself. And, a lot of credit to Brian Sweeney as well. He, is really the conductor of this orchestra. And a lot of credit to the players themselves, bringing in guys like Seth Lugo, Cole Reagans, Michael Wacha. That doesn't hurt your pitching performance. But Bove has, everybody's been singing his praises for a reason, right? And that's because he's really good at what he does. And he's going to make the White Sox better. And they are a division rival of the Royals. And so, it hurts in two ways. It hurts in the fact that the Royals lose him as a resource. And then it hurts that he helps a division rival get better when they have some young pitching talent in their organization. They have Hagen Smith. They have Noah Schultz. They have, who's that other kid who's on the team?
Smith.
Shane Smith. They have Jonathan Cannon. Is it Cannon?
Cannon.
They have some pitching talent to work with there. And so you could imagine Bove helping to make this group a real asset for the White Sox, which really gets them halfway to where they need to be in terms of turning the ship around. We'd be remiss if we didn't talk about some of the players and the things that they've done. They've won some awards this offseason, and that's fun to see. Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia both won Gold Gloves this offseason. Kyle Isbell was a finalist.
Bobby they announced today, won the Platinum Glove.
I think that was announced a couple of days ago. But yes, he also won the Platinum Glove, yes, which is given to the best defender overall, not just by position. And so great for him. Bobby also won the Silver Slugger Award. Mike, what are your thoughts on seeing Garcia and Witt Jr. take away some hardware this offseason?
Obviously great for both guys. Really excited and happy about that. But especially for Maikel, because we all know what Bobby Witt Jr. is. Everybody in the league knows Bobby Witt Jr. is a superstar. Every other team in the league would be stabbing each other to get him if he was on the open market. But Maikel Garcia, has his first really big offensive year last year, but then also gets this award to boost his overall player profile. This is going to make him money. It's a stamp of approval. This guy can play the hot corner in this league now with the bat as well as the glove that everybody already knew about. But this is an official, like, hey, Maikel Garcia's profile is lifted, all-star game, So other things like that get you to a place where you want to be come those free agent years that are coming up shortly. And the arbitration years too, because you can use that stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they're going to. Everybody does, right? Like, both deserving. I think that much was pretty obvious. Both guys hugely deserving, oddly over deserving, honestly. Like, if it had not gone to either one of them, I think you would have seen a big outcry. I think there was a little outcry because I don't know that Maikel was even a finalist for the Silver Slugger at third base. I can't remember exactly, but both obviously very deserving. The Maikel Garcia thing means more to him because he hasn't inked that extension. He hasn't inked his free agent money in any sort of way. He's probably looking for some of that. And so when they do it, they're going to have to do it with an all-star and a gold glover, and that matters some. But also, I think it matters for him a little bit psychologically because I think in his brain, he still kind of wants to be a shortstop. And anything that he gets that reinforces the notion that third might be his best place to be, I think is a good thing because he can't play shortstop for the Royals, right? I want him to stay with the Royals, but he cannot play shortstop for the Royals, right? Because the Platinum Glove winner plays shortstop for the Royals, right? And so you're going to have to, be happy with winning, be happy just winning 8 Gold Gloves over at third base. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can go down as one of the best defensive third basemen in the history of the game, right? If you stay there and you're just great there. Keep those two together as the left side of an infield. You're going to have the best defensive left side of the infield in baseball. Maybe one of, if not the best left sides of the infield in baseball. Just keep it going. As long as he can feel like he has a home at third, I think that's a good thing. Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy, who are happy to announce that they now offer strength and conditioning programs for youth athletes who want to gain an edge on the football field, basketball court, or baseball field.
I could probably use some of that for, of that upper body strength. I'm basically all glutes at this point.
That's all he's doing. He's watching too many Instagram reels, and he's trying to get a bubble. He's trying to get and of course, All In Physical Therapy still offers the best in recovery from total joint surgeries and sports injuries with offices in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. They'll help you take care of your recently replaced hips, knees, shoulders, elbows, you name it.
I just love the idea that we can go and get parts swapped out, like they're changing tires or something. Just like,
I know it does seem.
Throw
like
me
that,
a new hip in here, Jimmy, and I'll be back in an hour.
Yeah, basically that's how it is. It's like Jiffy Lube, but you get new shoulders and knees. If you're interested in reaching the peak of your athletic performance or getting back to 100% from an injury, check out All In Physical Therapy at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com, or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. We now have a full picture of what the offseason will look like. All the players and teams have exercised options or not. Free agency has officially begun, so we know who all the free agents will be, and that gives us a better sense of who needs pitching, who has too many outfielders, and so on and so forth. We've also heard what the Royals plan to do with their offseason, or at least what they're hoping to work with, the amount of money that they're hoping to spend, and so on and so forth. Mike, with all you know today, how would you describe the strategy?
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. We know a lot. Mike knows a lot.
I know a lot.
How would you describe the strategy you think the Royals should take, given all the givens?
Oh, all them givens. There's so many of them givens, I think they should still be looking to trade for a quality right-handed bat. That's the position that I would take early on. Like, my biggest want would be that direction. But I think position is somewhat flexible on that, because I know everybody's saying corner outfield, but I'm looking second base as well. And you don't want to move your Gold Glove third baseman to second if you don't have to. But that's a possibility if the bat would be good enough. Although I don't think the Royals are going to be playing in that sort of free agent area. Trade, it's hard to get guys like that. And then so I do think a trade is the best way. So I'm probably looking corner outfield. I'm probably looking second base. But someone who can positively impact the lineup, and then maybe you sign another platoon right-handed bat as well in free agency, but a guy who's more in that $4 to $6 million range, not the Bo Bichette's and the that $20 million range. So
yeah, that's tough. I think they should be less splashy in free agency than some will hope. I've just got a lot of fans telling me that they should just shell out money for Bo Bichette or whoever. I love that notion,
Alex
and
Bregman.
sometimes I wonder, what do Dodgers fans even talk about, right? Because it's not like they talk like, oh, we only have this much to spend. They obviously can't have the conversation that way. I just wonder what's it like to be like.
They're out there wondering, are they going to get Bo Bichette and whoever the best pitcher on the market is? Are we going to get both, or are we just getting one of these guys?
Yeah, that's probably it. But I don't think that the Royals should be all that splashy in free agency. I don't love the mid-tier of this free agent hitting class as fits for the Royals. Most of them, I really don't. Platoon right-handed bats, sure. I've mentioned before that Rob Refschneider is like my number one target for them. But I think the Royals will be priced out a lot of those mid-tier guys, and they'd be wise to stay disciplined and not overpay them. I think there are other things that they can do and are already in process to do that are going to improve this offense. I think getting Conor Dawson already improves this offense. I think if they bring in another hitting coach and so far in terms of coaching personnel, this front office has been on point, right? Like, in terms of coaching personnel that they hire, this front office has been on point. And so that sort of thing, coupled with, Jack Caglione a full season, Carter Jensen a full season, and then maybe a platoon right-handed bats helping, I think is maybe enough to get them offensive, and maybe a trade if they can find what they want. Mike, just before the offseason officially kicked off, a lot of people seemed hopeful that the Royals would fork over big money to bring in free agent bats. Looking now, do you think that will be a priority for them?
I don't. One, because, Aaron Rodgers has mentioned a couple times that's not the approach that the team wants to take. They want to trade from their pitching strength. She's even mentioned that. She's not gotten into details on it, but that lets you know that the beat writer for the team thinks they're more likely to make a trade than they are to buy up a bunch of free agents. And that's because I just don't think there's a lot of great fits. There's just not a ton of great fits when you look at the free agent market in the price range that the Royals are going to be able to play in. I went through that list. So maybe you look at a guy like Gleyber Torres, is a guy that we've already mentioned, I think, once on the podcast, and said, okay, that is kind of a great fit. His offensive profile is what this team needs. He's going to, he's going to get on base for you. He's right-handed, or is he a switch hitter?
Hold on.
He definitely hits right-handed at least. But he plays second base. He's still young-ish. He's only 29. He doesn't, I don't think the power ever worked out as much as the Yankees wanted it to, but he gets on base. Like that's a positive value there for a guy that, could help this lineup definitely be longer and can get on base. And if Mikel's not leading off that day, it could be a right-handed bat to lead off too. So he's righty only. Okay. So he is the only free agent target that I found that I thought was like, oh, that's a good fit for this team at a price they could pay. Cause he's, according to Spot Track, I think he's looking at 14 million, no, 12 or 14 million, somewhere in there. And
that's where they could play, but Spot Track
would be the that would be the
Spot Track is wrong.
Too.
They're wrong on the underside. Guys get more than they expect more often.
Yeah. Well, so even if he did, let's say you got up to maybe 17 or 18 million, could the Royals afford that? Probably. Would it be good value? That's kind of shaky.
That's the thing. There's a bunch of risk to Torres. He had a good year last year. He's had some bad years in the last 3 years too. He's not good defensively. He doesn't provide a ton of value on the bases because he's not super fast. And, it's one of those things that's like, somebody will hear, I know a fan out there where he'll hear Torres and be like, yeah, go get him. They should just go get him. And I'm like, pump the brakes. Okay. That is not a surefire thing. And it's going to cost them $15 million a year. Okay. Just think about that.
And if you're the Royals and you don't have a ton of money to do this, to compete, it's either going to cost you more to play into that, or you're going to have to be stuck with him for a year or two longer than everybody else would. And so that's going to be,
which you might have to be stuck with anyway. You might have to meet everybody else's average annual value and give him an additional year. And he's going to want years because he's about 29 years old, right? And this might be his last shot to get a long-term contract. Right? He's going to want years. Okay. Yeah. That's going to be the case.
The only other guy that I want to mention, just because people are going to be talking about him probably, Eugenio Suarez, formerly of the Diamondbacks, played with the Mariners in their playoff run this year. He's the kind of bat that I would be okay with. He plays third badly, but he's still got a lot of thump in the bat, right-handed bat. He's in that price range that the Royals might be able to afford because he's 34 years old and because he has an on base roughly around or below. It was below 300 this year. It's right around it usually. So I don't know. I wouldn't go for that, but if the Royals are really pressing to maximize the Bobby Witt Jr. years and they want to compete for sure, then maybe you get a guy like him, even though, because it helps your lineup, but it hurts you in other ways.
If you want to press for the Bobby Witt Jr. years, then spend $40 million this offseason and not 20, right? Because Eugenio Suarez ain't it. I don't like him in Kauffman Stadium. I don't like him playing third. I think if you're asking for big downside risk, sign Eugenio Suarez, right? Because
you're also, here's the thing. Last year was his worst year, and I know he's 34, so he's declining, but last year was his worst year pretty significantly. Somebody might convince themselves that, hey, he moves back up to closer to what he's been for the previous 3 years. And
that's the risk though. Like the upside is he regains some of his glory days. The downside is his career's just over and you just wasted $20 million, right? Like that's the downside because it could be that bad.
I don't know. I don't think it's going to take $20 million to get him, but yeah. Okay.
Well, 15, whatever. With Torres, you at least get the on base, right? Like you at least get the walk rate. It's tough because for the Royals, it's tough, this free agency idea, because $20 million just doesn't, $20 million don't get you what it used to, right? Like it just doesn't go very far in free agency. You know, like if you want a mid-tier bat, you're basically going to have to blow almost all of that $20 million on it, right? Like, and that's really tough, right? And so they have other things they want. They probably want things like extra bullpen arms and a bench player here or there, you know, a veteran bench player. If you want that, you're probably not in the market for a mid-tier bat, and not many of the mid-tier bats fit your team anyway, right? Like I don't like Suarez as a fit. He's probably one of the better fits, but he's not a good one in my mind. Why spend the money unless you're sure that thing is going to make your team better? You know, sure, right? Like I don't understand it really. Mike, and I have an alternative path that the Royals could choose to take, but I'm not sure fans will be on board with it. I'm pretty sure they're going to hate it. What if the Royals say, screw trying to add significant bats in free agency, and we probably won't find a trade partner that makes sense to help the MLB team. Let's trade Kris Bubic for the best minor leaguer we can get and hope development and some rotational bats get us offensive success in 2026. What do you think of that strategy?
I think that strategy is good for value. It's a good way to keep a healthy organization healthy. But I would be disappointed, honestly. Like that'd be somewhat. I'm going to compare the. You know, I'm a huge football fan as well. That'd be very similar to what the Chiefs did at the trade deadline this year.
Yeah,
you know, you chose not to go do anything. It was underwhelming. You know, you didn't help your team at all. You know, not your major league team anyway in this case, but. That would be super depressing because you have a front office that fails in 2 consecutive off seasons to land a bat when you know that the offense is the big problem. And they've come out and said it. They've been very open about that. We want bats. We want to sign a bat. We want to get a new bat to help this offense. We want to do these things. And 2 off seasons in a row, you get nobody to help your major league team, nobody to help Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino maximize what this offense can be. And, you know, by doing that, Michael Wacha's not getting any younger. Seth Lugo's not getting any younger. So I would be a little bit miffed, and I would understand why other fans might be furious at that as well.
Yeah, it's a high-risk strategy for that reason, right? Like it's high risk because of the position that they've taken, honestly, which is an honest and transparent position. Everybody can see that the offense is the problem. Everybody can see that, you know, when they missed on a bat last year, it impacted their offense. Although, honestly, if Anthony Santander were on this team in 2025, would that have done anything positive for the Royals offense? No. If Jurickson Profar had been on this team, would that have done anything positive?
If Eugenio Suarez, because that was a guy that we were talking about trading for.
He might have done something positive. That's what
I'm saying.
He
had a 112 weighted runs created plus last year.
That's good. It's not a guarantee.
Slugging percentage over 500 in the middle of your lineup.
And what's funny is, who was the number one? We know the Royals offered Santander, right? We know they did, and they didn't get him, right? Like we know he was probably their number one choice, right? And they didn't get him, right? Like, and so it's one of those things that's like, just because you add somebody doesn't mean they're going to make your team better, honestly. And in free agency, what that means is just because you give someone $20 million doesn't mean they're going to make your team better, right? Like, and so it's tough. If they were truly it wouldn't be as high risk, or they would have a better shot at this if they were going to spend $30 to $40 million, right? They would have the chance to go out into free agency and really make an impact, get a really good mid-tier bat. I think they could probably outprice everyone for Torres. They could play for Bichette if they had 30 to 40 million to spend, right? In this scenario, it is just the value play, right? The value play is to let development help your team get better offensively. Let a full season of Carter Jensen help your team get better. Let Carson Roccaforte joining midseason make your offense better. Let those new hitting coaches make your offense better. If they want to take the value play, take the value play. Otherwise, trade is a possibility, but the hard part about trade is there are not a ton of teams that want your most valuable trade chip before the season starts, right? So Kris Bubic is a 1-year rental. Nobody wants to give up players who are multi-year control hitters for a 1-year pitcher. It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially if they're rebuilding teams. If they're rebuilding teams, what good is a 1-year pitcher to them? No
and
good,
that pitcher
right?
has an injury history. So
with an injury history, who if he leaves, everybody knows he's going to free agency, right? And so you have no chance, right? Like it's really, really tough as a trade chip to get him. Now, people have floated others like trade Noah Cameron and that sort of thing. That's a possibility. They do have strength in pitching, but it's again risky, right? And so we'll see, but we have to think like we should think about all the possibilities for the offseason, not just the ones that allow us to indulge our fantasies of spending a lot of money that's not ours, you know? Mike, we've spoken about a hitting coach and the addition of that. How big of an impact do you think that could have in comparison to something like adding a free agent acquisition?
not nearly as much. Not nearly as much as
this is where you and I differ. We have a lot of similar opinions. This is where you and I differ greatly.
Hey, I'm going to go with the old adage. You've heard it. It's not the X's and the O's. It's the Jimmies and the Joes, Mark. The coaching is important, and I don't want to say that it's not, but players play the game. And if they can't play, then the best development plan in the world isn't going to do jack bull spit. You know what I mean? You know, it's not going to do a damn.
You're all on it with the folksy old sayings.
Hey, Farmer Mike came in. Here we go.
Mike, you and I differ on this because, and I think this is actually something that we're seeing change even more now. Like 10, 15 years ago, there was kind of a consensus in baseball that coaching was semi-important, but beyond a certain point didn't do that much. That has changed drastically in the last 15 years. Now it's like coaching needs to be able to drastically improve players at every level they're at, from low A all the way up to Major League Baseball. You have to be value added as a coach to be allowed to stick around, right? And so we're seeing a lot of coaches have tremendous success. I mean, we talked about adding Conor Dawson. We saw Andrew Vaughn go from the White Sox, where he could not do jack shit. He was let go by the White Sox, right? Like
a number one overall pick,
a first baseman, goes to the Brewers, becomes an excellent hitter for them, right? Like this is the sort of impact good coaching can have, right? Like let's imagine that Jack Caglione fulfills 90% of his potential. Let's imagine Kyle Isbell gets a little bit better. Michael Massey gets a little bit better. You know, Tyler Tolbert gets a little bit better. All these guys get a little bit better because the coaching gets better. In my mind, that equals the value of adding a good hitter, right? Because now you've just made, 4 or 5 hitters 20% better, right? Like to me, that's just as much the value or more value than adding a good hitter. So in my mind, something like the hitting coaches, as long as you get the right ones, and that's the real tough part, you have to get the right ones. They can have more of an impact than a good free agent bat. All right, final question I think we got to talk about before getting out of here or before finishing on the offseason topic, because nobody wants to talk about it, but labor negotiations loom over the offseason to some degree. Next year, the ownership and the Major League Baseball Players Association will do a round of collective bargaining. Reports are already out that owners are going to push for a salary cap. Mike, do you think that those labor negotiations looming next offseason will have any impact on this free agency period? If so, what kind?
That was a great question. When I was filling this out, I was like, oh boy, I am not even
close to prepared to talk about this, and I'm not looking into it, so don't make me.
Way to read between the lines there, brother.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I didn't. I have no clue. I didn't even realize they were doing that. But this is, I mean, I'm guessing it kind of depends on what each individual owner sees as the outcome of that. If they're thinking, hey, this is going to be a nasty fight, and there's a chance that the players could go on strike, or there's a chance there could be a shutout, then lockout, then then that may factor into the free agent money that they're willing to spend. I'm not getting a Eugenio Suarez if I think he's going to spend, on a 2-year deal. If I think we're going to be shut out for a year or whatever, or locked out for a year or whatever it is, and I'm losing value on a player who's already got diminishing value at 35 or 36 years old, and so that's going to factor in a little bit on what you're willing to spend and what you're willing to do. It's like we're all alive right now. We're adults. We know this. Believe what you want to politically, but tariffs cause uncertainty, and that's one of the big things we're dealing with economically right now. The same thing would happen here. A lockout causes uncertainty within the free agent market, and it is a marketplace just like any other. And so when that happens, sometimes there can be a little bit of a paralyzing effect and teams not wanting to commit big dollars when uncertainty is happening in the future. So it'll have an interesting effect. It certainly will.
Which raises the question, why don't they negotiate these a year in advance? Like, why do they wait until they actually expire and then negotiate new ones? Like, why not negotiate them earlier? You have more certainty. You know?
I don't even know if I have no clue. Maybe they do. Maybe they've got the contract goes through whenever. They're just going to, they don't?
No.
Oh, no. Dang. That's
it'll be wise, but I don't know. Yeah, that's why it comes down to it. And then they lock out, like, or go on strike or whatever, you know, like if there's no deal. I think it will have a tremendous impact. I think reports, you know, obviously reports say that the owners want a salary cap, or that there's enough support among ownership that they're going to push for a salary cap, which means there's a higher chance of a work stoppage. Players do not want a salary cap. They believe it suppresses wages, which it does.
Just look at the NFL, the most
just look at the
NFL league in the
most profitable league in the world, and yet its players are paid less than Major League Baseball and probably less than the NBA, and maybe on par with the NHL, right? Like, and so, you know, it's one of those deals. And so they don't want a salary cap. They might be willing to talk about it for a salary floor, but we'll see on that. I think as a result, a lot of guys on the lower end of free agency may be looking at 1-year deals, right? It may be a thing where they're like the platoon bats, the fifth starters, the, you know, mid-tier bullpen arms, the mid-reliever guys. They're looking at 1-year deals. Or guys might be quick to accept multi-year deals early in free agency to lock in that security, even if it's a little less than they think the market should dictate for themselves. Because a multi-year deal is going to mean more certainty, because the players, it's not just uncertainty among the owners. The players have uncertainty too, and their agents understand this, right? And they're like, if my player's more interested in financial security in getting that multi-year deal, he'll take a couple million less AAV to ensure that he's secure through any sort of lockout or work stoppage, right? Like some guys will take that, right? And so I think it will have an impact. The question is, what will that impact look like exactly? Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Do you have the same fantasy we do, retiring to a land of eternal summer? If so, you need to call Eric Oxer of West USA Realty pronto. He can help you transition to a lovely home in the Phoenix area and a life of fun in the sun.
I once got lost in the desert outside Phoenix. I met a spirit guide in hour 14 of being lost, and that's how I became a middle school teacher. Yeah, that's my story. That's my truth.
That's his origin story right there. Eric was one of the top real estate agents in the Phoenix area to end 2024 because he gives all of his clients a personal experience focused entirely on their needs. With Eric Oxer of West USA Realty, it's not about him. It's about you. And he's there to listen to you, work for you, and guide you through the ins and outs of buying and selling in the Phoenix area.
The trick is to knowing where the bodies are buried. And I mean this very literally. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. All sorts. Don't want to be on a pet cemetery. We've seen how that goes. Find Eric Oxer of West USA Realty online at ericoxer.com. That's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just give him a call or shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. I'm trying to turn it into a jingle. It's just not working. That's 480-383-9745. If you're at all interested in what a life in the Phoenix area might hold, let him make the experience all about you. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode with the Just About Outside segment, where we talk about something that's interesting to us outside the world of baseball. Mike, it's been a whole month since we did this. You got lots of stuff going on all the time. You're a busy, nay, I say, important man. What was your last week like?
I played the wardrobe in a 4th grade production of The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Way to go. Yeah.
Still doing it. I still got it. He's still got it. So I just an observation here. No judgment. I'm not giving any judgment here. Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and
Because
judge if that's okay.
I
I'm gonna go ahead and judge
participate
if
in
that's
these things as well, and I understand why. But what I've noticed since becoming a parent is that parents are now often turning kids' celebrations into their own thing, into like
What?
also at the same time adult parties. It's like, hey,
Oh.
I went to a Halloween thing the other day in a cul-de-sac in a friend of ours' neighborhood, and all the parents are there gathered around like a fire pit, and they're having fun and they're socializing, and somebody cooked food and all this, and they're giving out candy to kids as they come through. But this was way more of an adult hang with trick or treating involved too, because we did take the kids trick or treating, all of us, and it was, well, not all of us, but most of us took the kids around trick or treating, and had a good time with the kids. The kids had a lot of fun too. But that was also a party for adults. I've also seen this at kids' birthday parties where people are passing out like adult beverages, and it's like, oh, we're all having fun and enjoying this kid's birthday party. Good hang. Let's do it again sometime. It's like, wait a second. Who was this for? Was this for the kid or was this for the adult?
Congratulations, Timmy.
Congratulations,
You
Timmy.
turned a 4. It's a great time
Dad
of your
can't
life.
drive home. Okay. It's like, what do we, now, again, no judgment. I'm not against this because maybe this is a really good thing. Okay. Maybe parents need to also socialize, and because you have kids, it's hard to get away and do that. And so just blend them together, right? Just blend them on in there together. Adult hangouts with, at kids parties. Let's do it.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't have kids, so like it's all news to me. I'm like, hey, if that's the only time you got to hang out with people, hang out with people. The one downside, I would say, I guess, is it limits you to hanging out with people who also have kids.
That's true. You don't. Well, not always. I mean, there were some people at that thing that didn't have kids.
True.
Because a lot of times people who don't have kids, they live in neighborhoods where there aren't a lot of kids, and if you still want to give out candy and stuff, that can be tough. And so people will come out to the burbs and give out candy.
So. Okay, I'm not going to the burbs to hand out candy. I'll eat the candy myself.
I believe that. I believe
it's true. I bought 3 bags of candy to hand out to my class. They haven't left the house yet, and I'm through one of them almost.
Very good.
Yeah, classic me. I'm talking about something entirely different than candy or kids or any of that garbage. I'm talking about a great TV show on Netflix. If you haven't heard it, the most recent season, I think the 3rd season, just came out. It's called The Diplomat, starring Kerry Russell and Rufus. I think his last name is Sewell. Most people might remember him as like Mike. What's that movie with? Why can't I remember anyone's name? Australian guy, overdosed. Great actor. He was the Joker.
Hugh Jackman, not Hugh Jackman.
No.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger. Remember that Heath Ledger movie where he plays a knight?
Yeah, A Knight's Tale.
Remember the bad guy in that movie?
No. Oh yeah, I do. Yeah,
he's a really good actor, good character actor. He's been in a ton of stuff. All of you have seen him in something. He's in this movie, like sort of opposite Kerry Russell, who is also great. Was fantastic in The Americans. Mm-hmm. It is a freaking phenomenal show. It is an amazing show. Allison Janney is in it.
Oh, she's hilarious.
They brought Bradley Whitford in to play her husband in this season.
Perfect.
Which is hilarious and perfect. They're great together. The acting in this show is so good. The writing in this show is so good. I just can't describe it. It's basically a show about a woman who is asked to be the ambassador to the UK. But she's like a foreign policy wonk who wants like serious conflicts to solve. And so she's kind of disappointed in being asked to do this thing, right? Because she's like, I want to solve the conflicts in the Middle East and shit like that, right? But her husband is played by this Rufus Sewell guy, and he is like a very famous diplomat who is being asked to sort of take a back seat to her career at this point, right? That's how the show starts. And it just gets wild and crazy from there. It's like so good. There are moments of levity, which help lighten the show a little bit, which is important. But a lot of it's like kind of edge of your seat, kind of intense, a lot of twists and turns. I can't recommend it enough. It's a Netflix show. I hope they keep making seasons of it. I hope Netflix understands that if you have quality writing, quality acting, quality production, you can make shows for a number of seasons and make profit, because this show is the bomb.
I don't have Netflix, so
Well, get it. It's worth
I'll
it.
never get to see it.
Plus, the final season of Stranger Things is coming out too, so
Yeah.
you're going to want to get on that. That's all I have for everybody this week. We will be back maybe in a month, or if some important news breaks sooner. Who knows? If you want to hear us every week, royalsweekly.substack.com. Become a paid subscriber. You'll hear us every week. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.